In this video, I'm gonna talk about Wreckfest. Real life is boring. It is made of predictability and of people who try to exploit the ongoing system in their favor. All paths lead to some sort of fatality, be it at a dead-end job of your choice, or in whichever online game that XQC has decided to complain about this week. The mail arrives at 2:30 p.m., and you know exactly how many times you have to press the arrow key to skip the advertisement for cars and bids. Just the same, racing games are boring in the sense that the AI follows a clean line and it is never aware of your presence. You stop and lie across the track and they never even notice you. They just barrel on through and are genuinely confused that there had been an obstacle in the way. All they know is how to overtake. When somebody crashes out and tries to recover, the entire grid becomes an unstoppable bulldozer of 23 blue shells with your name on it. There are 3 constants in life: death, taxes, and shitty racing game AI. This here is no exception, but the twist is that somebody somewhere knew that this was coming, so they took steps to embrace the inevitability of the situation. So, yes, the AI is shitty, but it owns its shittiness, and it uses it as a launch pad for mayhem. You have some opponents who try to race, you have some who get stuck in a loop somewhere and have no idea how to get out, and then you have those that just plain jump out of the woodwork and cause a 7-car pileup. This approach would never fly in any sort of serious racing environment, but we are talking banger races and demolition derby here, so all of those random moments serve as helpful reminders that the AI is not all ganged up against me this one time, and I feel an overwhelming rush of schadenfreude whenever I see 2 opponents basically take each other out while I get the privilege of spectating on the show. It is actually not all that uncommon on the longer races to start off with a grid of 24 people and then have only 2 or 3 of them left racing by the end. Most of the later laps become less about cornering and more about dodging the absolute graveyard of smoldering remains that the race has produced. I have some sort of vague memory of signing up for the early access of this thing back in those happy times when I had not yet sworn off early access games. It then went on to sit on my hard drive, calling attention to itself by way of sporadic 3 GB updates, until I decided that I would play it, talk about it, and then delete it so that I would not have to download 3 GB updates again. It used to be called a Next Car Game, and I had figured at the time that this would be like BeamNG Drive with an emphasis on something else than running a car against a wall at full speed just to see which way it crumples. When Next Car Game changed its name to Wreckfest, and I saw a banner of a muscle car sitting on a pile of defeated poor bastards, I suspected that my crazy little risk might bring in more reward than I was expecting. Sure enough, your first event is a lawnmower demolition derby, and it sets the tune for everything that will come thereafter. The experience is not cartoonish, nor is it entirely realistic, but it lies somewhere between the two, and it takes itself about as seriously as a dad barbecuing at a tailgate party. You alternate between serious moments of racing sensible cars and smashing them against each other, and wacky moments where you are one reliant Robin running away from a fleet of buses, or competing to win a car that is made of 2 cars on top of each other. The game has 4 modes. The career is a set of curated events consisting of one-shots, heat races, and championships, most of which impose a restriction of some sort on the cars being put to use. Custom events let you choose most of the parameters of your upcoming race, including what the AI is driving, how many laps, time of the day, and so on. The different racing modes in here subdivide into last man standing or deathmatch for demolition derby, and into banger racing or last place gets eliminated each lap racing. The track selection goes all over the place into ovals, dirt roads, folk racing, and it even includes a track with a loop. The loop is the most ostentatious example of how far the game is willing to go for the sake of letting loose, and you can expect most other tracks to stay grounded in reality. That said, a few layouts have been made specifically to promote crashes and mayhem. Multiplayer is where real humans meet to yell at each other, and as of August 2021, there appears to be a small amount of online activity for a Saturday afternoon. Curiously, some people like to do clean races in which contact is discouraged. I suppose that the idea is mostly harmless, but it feels like going to a swinger party and then insisting that you only fuck your own wife. Tournament consists of events that refresh at specific intervals, and the rewards gained during these events can be used to purchase special cars or accessories. Some of the tournament events simply demand that you get the best result you can, while others compare your result to other players around the world, and rewards are distributed at the end of the event. The tournament mode also serves as a try before you buy for some of the DLC cars, and the idea is so simple and yet so ingenious that I am angry I have not thought of it myself. I am happy to point out that there is no obligation to obtain a perfect score in anything. There is no achievement for it, there is no mark on your record for getting 100%, and all the bonus objectives do is give you a bit of extra experience to unlock new upgrades faster. If you get stuck in the career mode, you can do a custom race, and it will give you experience and money just like any other event, so it is not like you have to puzzle out your career path and risk getting stuck in a dead end. Worst comes to worst, there is probably some way that the internet came up with for getting as much money and experience as possible in the shortest amount of time. At least you always have that option if you really and absolutely want that shiny new car with all the upgrades instead of racing for its own sake. My experience is that you can do just fine with the spare change and the occasional cars that the career mode gives you. Supposing that all you care about is the career mode and the tournament events, you can get the whole thing wrapped up in about 30 hours. But that is not meant to be a stopping point. The experience and the money exist to gradually open up more ways to perform the races, and the career mode is really here to guide you along as to the possible things that can be done. And anyway, sticking to the minimum would be missing the point. There is nothing keeping you from making an event where you are a bus and everyone drives sofas. There is an unspoken calling for experimentation and for putting cars in places where those cars do not have any business. The entire idea is to take chances, make mistakes, and get messy. As a last resort, you can always look for a mess online. Apparently, there is a feud between the people who want a pure simcade racer and the people who want something wacky and only grounded in reality on a part-time basis. It all feels like watching a more pathetic version of the Canadian Parliament. Nobody is going to win the argument, and every decision made by the developers from this point on will be perceived as wrong. I get to enjoy the luxury of ignorance. The game was perfect a year ago before they ruined it, except that every person I asked described the ruination in completely different ways, and some of them even contradict each other. If there was a decline, I was not there to see it. As far as I'm concerned, the cars go brrr. For my own sake, I did perfectly well doing my little thing in my cozy corner, while everybody else was busy yelling at clouds. I do not want to hear the other people. They remind me of real life, and real life is boring. Instead, I am hyper-focused on all the little details. They did not need to animate the countdown in that tiny subtle way, but they did. They did not need to make the wooden fences into breakaway objects, but they did. They did not need to give a little bit of weight to the piles of tires, but they did, and they feel like you hit something when you drive into them. They did not need to have a main menu theme with banjo, but am I ever happy that they went and got one. And it is only once it is all over that you actually process all those details and realize how they make everything just seem more lifelike. In short, this game is a fat blunt.